Hey folks, welcome back to Ed Explorer. I think Ivory Coast has broken the record. Ivory Coast is one of those countries in Africa that you will consider to be a puppet for France. But unfortunately, like any other puppet, there comes a time when they say, we are tired of this relationship. We are losing in this relationship. We want to try something new. We want to engage other strategic partner. Ivory Coast sent an unmistakable message to France that it will not be business as usual. We want to try new partnership. We want to look into new alternative. We want to engage other strategic partner. We want to play an equal game. In a way, that's the way geopolitics works. If you think that Ivory Coast was foolish enough to allow France's troops there, or they were afraid, I think they've been watching very closely. Don't forget, Ivory Coast is in West Africa. It's one of the major economies in West Africa. And they're observing what's going on in Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, Niger, and more importantly, in the country of Senegal. These are very stable countries, I would say, as compared to Senegal. Senegal is more stable as compared to what you would say in Ivory Coast. However, Ivory Coast is an economic powerhouse. But more importantly, let's go back to this particular decision. It is an important decision that Ivory Coast has made. The big question here is, what were France's troops doing in Ivory Coast? What were they doing? How insecure that a foreign troop should be in your country in 2024, 2025? How insecure would that be that the government of these countries can make a decision with the foreign troops? How would that be that you see Ivorian troops walking France or having a base in France? Let's step back a bit and look at geopolitics here. It is important that these nations in the continent of Africa start making strategic choices. In the past, it has been as if African countries cannot make decisions on their own. And now they're beginning to speak out and make those decisions. Then it's received in the geopolitical circles as not normal. Yes, it is normal. Ivory Coast just said France must leave the country. Looking at January, whatever the timeline will be, who cares about that? But the most important thing is the fact that they have come out strong to make that statement. It means it's going to happen. France's colonial history in Africa has caused a lot of outrage in a number of countries in the Sahel. But Ivory Coast is one of those nations that you will begin to wonder that what is playing in the background, what is actually going on in that country. But Ivory Coast has come out clear and say, we're not going to maintain this partnership because it is one-sided. Let's look at it from a positive side, like any other country. How will it be that Ivory Coast haven't been under chains from France for hundreds of years, looking at their relationship? These countries are not foolish. They are observing what's happening in other regions, other African economies, what they are doing, how they can make decisions on their own. Just imagine that France itself feel comfortable to sit in someone else's nation. I think Emmanuel Macron have talked about these things over and over. I think the French people never believed him, that colonialism was a crime against humanity. He said it. He said it in different countries. He said that in Rwanda and talked about this across the continent of Africa. I don't see anything that's new here. Ivory Coast just did the right thing. They would have done this years ago. And I think it's never too late to kind of come up straight and do it. But again, kudos to these other nations that I will say they showed Ivory Coast the road. Ivory Coast is a vibrant African economy. There are challenges, no doubt. However, Ivory Coast has demonstrated over and over that it really wants to break the chain. Most recently, Ivory Coast imports oil, crude oil from Nigeria, refine it, and also then distribute it across the other neighboring countries in that particular part of the continent of Africa. And asking France's troops to leave enables Ivory Coast to take matters into its own hand and become responsible and take its own security paramount. I don't see what France has delivered in terms of security in Ivory Coast. Talk less of what happens in the country of Mali, considering Operation Serval and Burkina in the Sahel region. France's foreign policy in the continent of Africa has been a disaster. It's been a total disgrace. And I think that this particular last straw that has hit France's back is an opportunity for the government of France and the geopolitical and strategic policymakers for France to go back to the drawing board and sit and ask themselves proper question that what's going on in Africa, that Africa has come of age. The continent want to make strategic choices. Don't forget, African nations have not come out clear and said, we don't want to work with this person. What Africans are saying, we want equal partnership, diversified relationship. We want to make our decisions. We want to look into our monetary policy. But more importantly, we want to open our doors for other partners to see what's out there. Because this relationship between France and Ivory Coast has been so cozy, so tight that it makes this country not being able, nobody can hear the voice of Ivory Coast. The Ivory Coast of the days that we all knew, that was very vibrant, engaging, opening doors, and one of powerhouse economically in West Africa, was just shut down as a result of Ivory Coast was just known for its cocoa. You can't just be known for cash crops. It's just raw materials. I think the decision to ask France's troops to leave the country, it sends a signal to other geopolitical partners across the region, whether that is China, other United States of America, and including the European Union itself, and more importantly, other Middle Eastern partners, India and Russia, and the rest who are looking to engage Africa. I know some of the individuals in the French political history or geopolitical circle will be like questioning this decision. No, it is an opportunity for you guys in Paris to sit back and make a strategic choice and start looking African nations as equal partners, as respectable partners. No condescending behavior, no downplaying, no manipulation, no unequal relationship. That's never going to happen because the leaders now are coming out clear. There is a geopolitical shift in the continent. I'm surprised if France hasn't gotten that message. The message is clear that we are not going to maintain this particular route that we have been for the past 100 years. And it is clear. It's still an opportunity that France should go back to the drawing board and look at the continent of Africa. Let's not talk about countries like Djibouti and Gabon that has France's troops still sitting there and watching. The message is going. If Ivory Coast of all, a puppet in the continent, can, to an extent, make such a huge decision. It's a monumental decision by Ivory Coast. I just want to put this into context. It is a monumental decision from the geopolitical and historical perspective that Ivory Coast has called a shot. You give them credit. Whatever's going to happen, I don't know. Do you know? Nobody knows. But the deadline is being clear. They are talking about January of 2025 to February. But we know that the moment such decisions come out, there will be a follow-up on it. It is a win for the country of Ivory Coast, irrespective of how you see it. It is a win for the people of Ivory Coast. Something very important. What France failed to understand in the continent of Africa is that a number of African governments nowadays don't have the grips on their people the way it used to be in the colonial days. The civil society in those countries are making some effort. That's the reason why you cannot just control those capitals anymore, because those citizens in those nations are observing what's happening in other regions. They are observing what's going on across the world. And to an extent, they're beginning to see, compare, analyze, looked at YouTube videos, looked at mainstream media, look at what's happening in the regions. There is internet, there's communication, information superhighway that we are living at the moment, AI, whatever you want to call it. All of these are sending information out there. And for you to sit in Paris and thinking that you can still have your troops sitting in another country in 2025, I think then your foreign policy is a disaster. France should accept defeat, go back to the barracks, sit there, make some choices, make some phone call, look at the mirror and ask yourself that we failed in Africa. And now is the moment to go back and ask for a position, for a slice, if we can make some contribution, some significant contribution. Speaking language is not enough. Language is not enough anymore. If you look at the African France-Afrique, as it's known, this has been the worst policy in modern history that any country can use to rule in the continent of Africa. And Emmanuel Macron coming and talking pretty clear that France-Afrique was a disgrace and that this dealing with the upper echelon of the African continent. I think African leaders are beginning to listen to their people to an extent, because the wave of change that's going on at the moment, it will be disrespectful not to understand that the governments of those countries are paying attention. They are paying attention, not just from the United Nations, from other areas, but they are paying attention on what's going on around the world. So if Chad comes out clear and tells France, we are not going to continue this partnership because it doesn't serve our interest based on the global strategic engagement. The next person that comes out was Senegal, made it pretty clear that we are not going to accept a foreign troop sitting in our country. How will it be that foreign troops are parading France or having a base in France? How would that look like? I think Djibouti, also Gabon, Mauritania, and the rest are observing. The fact that they are asking France's troops, don't get me wrong, the fact that they are asking France's troops to leave, it's not a problem. They just want France to leave so they can make choices on their own. It's so simple. There's nothing so difficult about this thing, because other analysts will talk about all these countries are becoming rogue, they're making decisions on their own. They should make decisions on their own. So I think Djibouti following and later Gabon and whoever, it's not going to be a surprise. But again, we have to wait and hear that from the governments of those countries. So 2025 might be an opportunity for the country of France to accept defeat, looking at 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024, all of the geopolitical failures that France has experienced in the continent of Africa. This might be the time when the government of France come to the table and say to the people of the continent of Africa that, hey, we screwed it up and now we are coming clean to open our hands. Now you're gonna call the shot and we're gonna listen to what you are saying. Because don't forget, the monetary policy is right on the table. These countries are observing, they are reviewing the options, what's going to happen, because with the tight inflation and the skyrocketing prices in those different countries, they are observing this. I wonder who is really pushing the African policy in Paris. These people lack on the ground information, because sometimes we see these big geopolitical analysts come on TV with suits and whatever and talk about the continent as if they have an idea. You have no clue culturally, you have no clue strategically, you have no clue economically, you have no clue from the policy perspective. You have no better understanding than those who can provide a comfortable advice. I think it is time that policymakers in France give an ear to uncomfortable information that can help them to basically steer their nations in the right part of history. Because with the Chinese now in the continent of Africa, the United States of America in the continent of Africa, the Russians in the continent of Africa, and the European Union, including Indian partners and Middle Eastern partners as well, I tell you what, the competition is fierce, and France knows this. A prominent American geopolitical analyst once said, if any of this decision being made by Senegal, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, including today, Ivory Coast, would have happened 20 years ago, France would have crushed it. But I think France also knows what the consequences could be. And that's the reason why, to me, we are hearing things in Paris at the moment like collaboration, partnership, engagement, working together. These were words that will never come out from France. But again, it's a chance for France to get the message. I just want to thank you for having this chat with me. I think the country of Ivory Coast should be held, and those other nations in the continent of Africa should follow suit and actually talk to France that we're not going to do things the way we used to do them over the past 100 years. We are going to do them in a different way because the current geopolitical demands and the challenges that the world faces does not fit the colonial strategy. Countries now must engage because the pressure is coming from on the ground. I want to thank you for watching. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think regards to the decision by those countries, particularly Ivory Coast, and why Ivory Coast has made this choice waiting until the end of the year. There must be a strategic reason behind this. I want to thank you for watching. I'll be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Smash the like button and share the video. Let me know what topic you'd like to talk about. We will be looking at other very important aspects in 2025 and dive into the geopolitical reasons why the continent of Africa revise its relationship with the strategic partners. For now, I will be looking forward to meeting you soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.